is let's just keep your spending whatever it is. Just tell me, what are you spending every month now? And that'll be your plan in retirement.
Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Upticks with Jake and Cory. Cory, welcome back to the show.
Jake, thank you for having me back on the show.
We started a little recommendations list last week. Do you have anything now, Cory, to provide our potential millions of, you have nothing? Millions of viewers listening.
From a week ago. Nothing.
You have nothing to know? Wow, Cory. So it's just work, baby, work, baby.
Well, as far as recommendations go, I don't have anything. I've had a lot of other stuff going on, but that's the reason I don't have any new TV shows or books.
What is your preferred diaper choice?
Ooh, the Pampers Swaddlers. That is the preference in the Bittner house.
Swaddlers. All right.
Yep.
Now, how do we know Daisy likes those?
We don't.
Okay. Fair enough. But that's your and Cassie's preferred diaper. All right.
That's right.
Fantastic. Well, before we go into today's headlines, Cory, I did want to first, again, thank you. You helped me out. I had a table at the Kansas Golf Hall of Fame event, and it was a little light. Oh no, the event was packed. However, I was having a little trouble initially filling the table because the Chiefs and the Royals were playing same night. So if all our viewers and listeners remember, the Chiefs and Royals played on Monday night. They both won that game, but I wanted to thank you for attending it. It was a really awesome event. Woody Austin, Matt Gogol, and Gary Woodland, all three were inducted into the Kansas Golf Hall of Fame. Falcon Wealth Advisors plays a small role in that. We helped sponsor a table. We had some great people at our table. And Cory, thank you for joining. But I wanted to bring up Gary Woodland's speech because I personally was pretty moved by it. I don't know, were you moved? I didn't look over at you while he was talking, but
very much so.
So Gary, for our listeners that don't know, Gary grew up in Topeka, Kansas. All his life wanted to be a professional athlete, played basketball, played golf, went on to play basketball at Washburn in Topeka, and realized after they played KU that he wasn't good enough to be an NBA player. So he flipped and went all in on golf. And now this guy's won a U.S. Open. He's a very accomplished professional golfer. But one of the takeaways from his speech, Cory, which you and I have talked about this, is that for him, there is or was and currently is no plan B. He was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I couldn't help but relate to that, Cory, with my career as a wealth advisor. When I started in this industry in 2006, I don't know why, but it never really crossed my mind. Like, what if this doesn't work out? Will I go be a banker? Will I go back to school and be an attorney? Will I go sell cars? Right? Whatever. And none of those things are right or wrong. But for me, there was no plan B. This is it. I got very lucky at 25 years old to really discover this is what I am on earth to do, is to help people with their wealth management, to enhance financial literacy, to do financial planning and investments, and now to build out a team to serve and support our clients. And so I really related to that. I thought it was super cool. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would argue that's part of the reason that you've been successful, Jake, is because you didn't have the plan B. Maybe the same is true for Gary also. And, we've talked about this because I very much feel the same way that you do, Jake, which is, just giving your all to whatever it is that you're doing, right? And we're very fortunate that we have the opportunity to build this business, right? And we have over 800 clients that we work with and families, and it's been a great thing, but we have dedicated and committed ourselves to it. And without a plan B, I think it really forces you to think about the right way to accomplish what you're trying to do. So yes, I think it was a great induction speech, and I appreciated hearing that from him.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here a little bit, Cory. Have you ever thought about, I don't think you have, but what would you do if you weren't a wealth advisor?
Good question. I've thought about this in the context of what would I do if and when I'm retired from being a wealth advisor. And I don't have a great answer. The best thing I can come up with, Jake, is a DJ, a wedding DJ for events. How
Nice.
about that? I think that'd be fun as a
Nice,
retirement
Cory.
job, not as a career.
Nice.
The encore. But that's it. There's really I haven't. How about you?
Yeah, the same. I don't have a plan B. I don't think weirdly, because everybody knows I'm a big golfer.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly though, I wouldn't want to be a professional golfer. And I don't think, if money wasn't an object, maybe I would retire like you said. Maybe we sell Falcon Wealth Advisors one day to our team. And if I could buy a golf course, that could be cool because a couple of guys in town have done that. So maybe I'd be a golf course owner. But I probably wouldn't like that either in the end. So again, I wouldn't like that as much as I like what I'm doing now. So I really envision me doing this a very long time. We're very lucky that we have a team around us, so we can do this a long time. I don't think burnout is in either of our vocabularies because we've got a lot of people supporting us and supporting the clients. And so anyways, I thought that was interesting. But I'd like to hear from our audience, Cory. So if anybody wants to share what they would do, well, first off, I want to hear from people. Did you go into your career or are you currently going into your career where there is no plan B? Meaning you're all in. This is it. This is all I want to do. Just like me and Cory and Gary Woodland. I don't want to compare us to Gary Woodland, right?
I know what you mean.
I want to hear that. Or if there is a plan B, if it's something fun, if you wouldn't do what you're doing, what would you do? And I want to hear this. If there is a plan B, this is my challenge to our audience, Cory. If there is a plan B, why aren't you doing it? Why is that not your plan A? And email Luke at falconwealthadvisors.com with your comments, and we'd love to share them here on Upticks. We'll keep your name anonymous, so don't worry. If your boss is watching, you don't have to worry about your boss finding out. But I do want to hear, have you gone all in, and how has that worked out for you? And if there is a plan B or something else you'd rather be doing, why aren't you doing it? Right? Why not? So again, speaking of our audience, I want to thank everybody. Please continue to like and share our content. Cory, we're getting around 1,000 views on YouTube every week. We're very humbled by that. Again, the whole point of Upticks is to enhance financial literacy. So a thumbs up, a 5-star rating. Please like and share our content. And if you're not getting our weekly email newsletter where we have more content besides just Upticks, please just email Luke at falconwealthadvisors.com and Luke will make sure you get subscribed to our weekly email newsletter. All right, Cory, with that, let's take it away.
Play ball.
All right, you're up first this week, Cory. Here we go. Test drive your retirement spending while you're still working.
Yes. So this article, Jake, was around a book that was released this year, not Retiring Right, a different book on retirement. But I did think this was...
Hold on.
Please.
Real quick plug, got Retiring Right, Smart Steps for Exiting Corporate America. Thank you, Cory, for the plug. It's out there on Amazon. Go pick up your copy today. Go ahead, Cory.
Yes, and I do think that some iteration of this commentary is in the book, Jake. But I do think I liked this article because it really talked about how a lot of people will test drive a new car right before buying it, and the article was suggesting that people should do the same thing with retirement, specifically to try living on your expected retirement budget for a month to 3 months before you ultimately retire, so you can take the years of what can sometimes be abstract financial planning and calculations. To really help reveal whether or not, you're in the position that you think you're going to be in, and really whether or not your vision for how you're going to spend your time and your money when you're no longer working is a good fit.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. My takeaway from this is that, practice spending money to get used to how it feels. And obviously it all needs to be done within the context of your financial plan. But I do think the article here was just getting at, Jake, something we talk about on the show, which is, kind of flipping that switch from working and saving to retiring and spending and the challenges that can be involved. Because I appreciated the comment here that said, hobbies, activities, and relationships are as important to a happy and satisfying retirement as a well-designed portfolio and a carefully calibrated spend rate. And life happens.
Yes, that's a really good quote. And that you've got to have balance and you got to understand both sides of that equation. And another way that we do this, Cory, that I like to recommend to my clients is let's just keep your spending whatever it is. Just tell me, what are you spending every month now? And that'll be your plan in retirement. That way you can transition into retirement and live the same lifestyle. So basically this is saying to do roughly the same thing, or I guess not. I mean, if somebody's living off $12,000 a month now, and they're claiming that they can live off $8,000 a month in retirement, then I agree. They should try and practice living off $8,000 a month before they retire. What I normally say is, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if you're living off $12,000 a month now, why don't we just plan on you living off $12,000 in retirement? Let's just plan on that, right? So that you don't have to have an interruption in your cash flow. But I love that too. Hobbies, social, family, travel, health, wellness, all those things need to be accounted for also in retirement, because you could have a well thought out portfolio and financial plan, but you could be miserable, and we don't want that, certainly.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And it is so easy to get into all of the financial piece of retirement and everything that comes with planning for it. But what we're talking about here, right, is practicing and living out the other side of the plan when you're no longer in that accumulation phase. And I think that just a lot more thought goes into, I don't know about thought, but a lot more effort and energy into saving and planning than it does for what will it look like. The 10 a.m. on Tuesday test, Jake, that you talk about in your book. What am I going to do if I'm not working anymore? What am I doing at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, right? And those are the things that sometimes people just don't give enough thought to. And that's why it's good to have these conversations and talk about it before somebody pulls the trigger on retirement.
All right. Very good. Very good.
All right. Multi-millionaire the boring way.
Yes. And Cory, I mean this, that people that know me really well know that I'm not a very patient man. Mm-hmm. Right? You know that. I'm somewhat impatient.
I know you well, and I know you are not patient.
Good and bad. Good. There's some good reasons to being impatient, and there's some very bad things. And when it comes to investing, being impatient can be one of the worst things that you do. So luckily, with investing, I am very patient, right? But what this article gets at, Cory, is that, and this is a quote. This is a quote from the article. I'm going to read this real quick because it's really powerful. You don't need to found a startup. You don't need to earn 100% annual returns with risky investments. You do need a good income so that you can actually save and invest regularly. You do need to put a good chunk of those invested dollars to work in the stock market. Again, this is a quote. This is not necessarily advice. He or she talked about in a diversified low-cost fund or whatever. I'm just saying, basically the takeaway there is to save. Continue my quote. And you do need to refrain from blowing up your portfolio. And this is an example given by selling everything in early 2009, right after the market has fallen 50%. Horrible time to sell. And you need to give it time. End quote. And my points here on this, Cory, is this is a great point. People start chasing returns and doing stupid things to try to get rich overnight. And what's even worse about this is that money doesn't necessarily make you happy. So why would you risk losing what you do have to get something on the other side that might not even be there? So my point to our audience, and again, the show is not for advice, it's for informational, educational purposes only, and hopefully a little entertainment, is that don't get caught up in this, you can double your money doing this, or even some of these other schemes, you may lose all your money, so you better invest with me, because if not, you're going to lose everything. Like, don't get caught up in this fear and greed. And this article really talked about greed. Really, the way people have made money in investing is through time, disciplined saving, and compound interest. Warren Buffett didn't become this huge multi-millionaire, billionaire, whatever, in his 40s or his 50s. He did it like in his 70s and his 80s, right? Because of compounding. Now, he was making good money along the way, but my point is, you don't need people. Here's a problem, Cory. That happens. People read about it and they think that can happen to them too.
Yeah,
you can also get struck by lightning, but we don't worry about getting struck by lightning, or we don't try to get struck by lightning, obviously, right? So anyways, your thoughts on this? I thought it was a good article.
No, that's really good. And I think of course, it's anecdotal, but you and I, Jake, have met with hundreds, if not thousands of people, right, over the years. And I do think that is, while it's a small sample size, I've met with far more people that have accumulated more significant wealth this way than they have. I have not met with very many people that have gotten rich quick overnight, right? Or somebody who tried something and it worked really well. And I think we really can't talk about that enough, because the whole sort of landscape and media around the markets and what happens on a day-to-day basis is enough to get people so wrapped up on a day-to-day basis that we've got to zoom out.
Right. It's a saying, easy come, easy go. I feel like people that get money quickly and easy they tend to spend it too fast. No matter how much advice we give them, I see that happen too, right? And so it's the disciplined savers. It's boring. It's okay though, because again, let's go find your purpose. Let's enjoy what you're doing. Live an active, healthy lifestyle. Let's save the appropriate amount according to your financial plan. Let's let compounding do its thing, and you can retire. You can if you have a well thought out financial plan. Again, this isn't advice, but you can do those things. You don't have to get rich overnight.
That's right.
You don't have to do it that way. Good. Let's go on to the next one, Cory. Solving the mystery of an investment that's too good to be true. Speaking of that.
Great alignment with what we just talked about here, Jake. So this was the follow-up column to actually a headline and a story we talked about on this show in late August or early September. And it was called, Jake, When Interest Rates Go Down, the Hucksters Spring Up. You remember this?
So we talked about this, right?
We talked about it on Upticks, yes.
Yeah.
So there was a follow-up article that was published after that very recently. And the author, Jason Zweig, that wrote it, noted that in his follow-up that what he learned investigating these investment opportunities that were being pitched to people that ultimately seemed too good to be true from his point of view, he learned that the events that materialized were even crazier than he expected. And it was basically a tale of non-existent companies, unlicensed salespeople making absurd claims. So it turns out, Jake, and I think this is important for us to talk about, the mega high yield term deposit, whatever this product was that this firm was offering, that claimed to offer up to a 15% guaranteed annual return for 10 years. It turns out that was too good to be true. And after that first article, Jake, that we talked about on the show, after that was published, there were entities that were dissolved. There were websites that were taken down offline almost immediately. But despite all that, these ultra high income investments are still being marketed widely, even though the firm that offers them doesn't even exist anymore. So the point there is to be smart and to be careful and to be vigilant. And I think that the appeal of a 15% guaranteed return for 10 years is something, Jake, that I think if we use our logic, it tells us how is that going to work. But if we're just blinded by opportunity, somebody can end up in a situation they don't want to be in. So I can't stress that enough. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, good one, Cory. Here's a tip. I got a tip for our audience. So if you're going to be working with an advisor, you need to head on over to brokercheck.org. I believe it's .org, isn't it? Brokercheck.org? Or it's .org. I don't think it's .com. BrokerCheck. It's out there. It is is it org? You Googling it?
I'm double checking on that for you, Jake. I do think it's org.
Fact check me, Cory.
It's org. It's org.
Is it org? Yes. Yeah. See, I was right. Shouldn't doubt myself.
Right. You're on it.
Brokercheck.org. Okay, if you're working with a wealth advisor, and this is why you want to do it, brokercheck.org will show you where this person, he or she, has worked, their career history, their licenses, and most importantly, you want to look at any disclosures. And this will show if they've had any major customer complaints on the record. Now, I'm not saying if somebody has a complaint that they're a bad person. I'm saying this is how you can check the background of somebody that's claiming to give you financial advice, right? Number one. Number two, wherever the money's going to be held, you want to make sure there is something called SIPC coverage. And that stands for Securities Investors Protection Corporation, right? And what this does is ideally, this will protect you against fraudulent acts. So you understand that you're with a large, reputable institution of where your money's being held. And then the third thing, and this is one of the reasons I like working with Hightower, Cory, is that you want to understand what their compliance oversight looks like. We are a separate company, Falcon Wealth Advisors. We use a separate custodian to hold the money that has the SIPC coverage. And then Hightower handles our compliance. So there's three, I was just talking to this about something the other day. There are three separate entities, all checking and balancing, right? And none of us, I would argue, I'm sure Hightower's this way, I would guess, we're this way, that we're not going to risk our reputation on another company behaving unethically, right? Or illegal, obviously. So the idea is that we have all these checks and balances in place on purpose to better serve our client. And so again, that's how you can do your homework. You want to understand those three things. What is the advisor's background? How solid is the institution that's going to be holding my money? And what does the compliance oversight look like? If you can get solid answers there, fact check it online or in writing, that's how you can protect yourself, Cory.
That's good. That's really good, because when I read stories like this one, it just blows my mind every time still that these things happen.
Crazy.
It is.
Crazy.
And yeah, be smart and be careful out there. That's good.
Good.
All right, Jake, here's what it's like to retire in rural America.
Now, Cory, you're a city guy, right? You never lived in rural America, have you?
Nope.
Have you ever seen the stars at night, Cory?
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right. Let me explain this to you. So these people in this article are living out in the country. You don't really know what that is, Cory, but I do. I kind of grew up a little bit out in the country. We had 15,000 people in my town growing up, but it was still pretty small, pretty country.
Yep.
And we're talking about places like Maine, even New York, not New York City, obviously Colorado, Missouri. And their comments were the cost of living is much cheaper and life is very simple. To these people in this article, Cory, it's about being outdoors. Now, they do lack entertainment and access to medical help, which is a little alarming, but most of them don't seem to care about this at their point in their lives. So, when I went down to Arkansas to play golf, it was gorgeous, Cory. It was kind of hilly, really thick wooded trees, and you could see these little roads carving off. And my question is, would you do that? Would you ever retire, buy yourself 50 acres in the middle of nowhere, have a nice house, maybe a swimming pool, maybe a pond, maybe some goats, maybe a cow course? Would you ever do that? Maybe you don't need animals, right? Would you ever retire in a rural setting? Are you what do you think of that?
Very open-minded to it.
You're a city guy, though. You want to know, right?
Yeah, that's right. I haven't. I've lived. Funny, Missouri, right? One of the articles talks about here is where I've lived my whole life, just different places. From St. Louis to Kansas City and in between in college. But exactly to your point, yes, I have lived much more in urban areas, but I very much am open-minded. I get it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I love where my wife and I and our family live, but I do understand, people's desire to have more space to spend their time outdoors. And really just focus on what's important, which I like from this article. My takeaway from that, Jake, was that, ultimately these people know what it is that's important to them and what they want to be doing. And that's the life that they're trying to live in retirement, regardless of what anybody else wants or what anybody else thinks is right or wrong. And I think that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going to retire in rural America, you don't have to become a rancher or farmer.
Right.
But
yes,
I think it's, again, I admire it a little bit. I love Kansas City. I was born here, but it's weird that I've lived in Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, and Texas, right? So I've actually lived in 4 states, and I love Kansas City. I don't know, though. When I'm 70 years old, maybe I'll like, just being out in the outdoors and living a much simpler life. We're pretty lucky here, though, Cory. I don't think Kansas City is so complex like other cities.
Right.
Where if we're in New York or Chicago, right, or LA, where it's like go, 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 I feel like you get kind of a laid back, but you definitely don't get to see the stars as much. It's noisy, right? It is more complex. There's more going on here, more people. It's more expensive than living out in the country. So I thought it was cool, though. I thought it was just, so my point is for our audience, I just want you to think about it. You don't have to retire. You don't have to retire right next to your kids and your grandkids. You could retire an hour or two away out in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty easy to get in the middle of nowhere, a lot of parts of the country, maybe not in the Northeast, but most places, if you drive,
very spread out. Yes.
If you drive an hour in almost any direction from Kansas City, you can get pretty rural pretty quickly. And I feel like that's how most cities are, especially in the Midwest. So my point is, if you want to do that, I think it's okay, as long as, again, you understand what your purpose is and what you want to do. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was pretty neat article to think about and dream about a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting that they said they lack entertainment or even access to medical help, but they just don't seem to care.
Right. Well, for them, I think, I don't remember because it's been a while since I read the article, but I think it had to do with maybe literally kayaking or going for walks, right? For them, it was about knowing their little community so they know their neighbors. I don't think they were all necessarily isolated, but knowing your neighbors and just being very simple, right? But they're not going to have the Chiefs, right? They're not going to have the Royals. They're not going to have, all that stuff that we are spoiled with in Kansas City. They don't have any of that. So their entertainment is probably maybe if there's a movie theater or maybe I don't know, a picnic or a fair or something comes through town, I don't know, but there's not a lot of stuff going on. So it's just very, very simple. So not a lot of entertainment, but they don't need that. They have a community and they're outdoor in nature. Maybe they got a nice little 9-hole golf course and they play golf, and that's what they do. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I think your community and being able to spend time outdoors is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, it's something cool to think about. All right, Cory, let's go on to the next one. The keys to aging at home: frank conversations and financial planning.
Yes. This article, Jake, was from Barron's. There was a lot here, but I just kind of wanted to summarize some of the key points from it. That preparing for aging in place, because the theme around aging in place is that, seniors, according to some of the surveys that they have done, have overwhelmingly said that they want to stay in the home that they live in. So preparing for aging in place requires, what this was stating, is honest family conversations about care and about finances. And that delaying preparation makes the task that much more difficult. Home modifications, like adding a grab bar, widening doorways, whatever it might be, can make aging in place safer and more comfortable. Smart home technology can provide peace of mind. Obviously, there's cost to these things. And lastly, financial planning is crucial for aging in place. Consider savings, home equity, insurance, the potential costs of in-home care. My takeaway from this is that it starts with a conversation, an open, transparent conversation amongst family, and really a lot of financial planning around that, but communication and planning.
This is a touchy subject, Cory, because
It is.
I think sometimes when you're dealing with elder parents, they can be very stubborn and dig their heels in and just refuse. Even if the home isn't safe, even if they can't afford it. And so you're right, that's a tough one. And I think that's when you lean on your friends from Falcon Wealth Advisors. Like, if we need to help you have a frank conversation with your elder parent, let's talk about it. Or if we can bring in another professional, maybe we bring in somebody that, has experience. I don't know what it's called. Maybe safe proofing a home. Like, as you're going to stay in your house, you need to do some things to allow for senior living. You might need to put some bars up, or I don't know, right? Make the steps easier,
or widen the doorways, like I said. Yeah, the list
make
goes on
less
and on.
trip hazards, right? All those things. Almost like, it's kind of weird how the cycle of life works. But you know how they talk about kid-proofing your home? You almost need to do that if you're 90 and you're living in a home.
This article talked about, like, people understand baby-proofing, but people don't understand age-proofing.
Yes. So I think that's good. I think it's difficult because every family dynamic is different. And so you just got to have that conversation and be respectful, because you have to understand, I think America has a real problem with respecting our elders in this country. And so it's a touchy subject. You have to show respect and care, and not that you're taking things away from them. That's the key. Like, you don't want to take, because they talk about one of the worst things to ever lose is your driver's license. Because that's a big thing when we're 16. That's like an act of freedom. I could go where I want in a car, which is pretty crazy, right? For a 16-year-old to have that freedom. So if you're 85 and they say, Cory, you can't drive anymore, you take away freedom from that person. And so this is something similar, I feel like. And so you gotta be mindful and prepared. And there's coaches out there, even if it's not us, right? Because again, we're not therapists, we're not counselors, or retirement planning counselors, but we're not really trained to do this. But if you want to lean on us and let us be the bad guy a little bit, or the middleman, we're certainly capable to have that conversation. But if you need more, there's people out there that you can find
absolutely
that can help you with it. Good. Cory, let's do one more quick one here. We got time for one more here.
All right, Jake, how do you know if you're spending too much?
All right, good. This is from our friend Carl Richards. We've shared his stuff on here before. But the quote here is, sufficient for our needs sounds simple, but it's tricky. What's enough for me won't be enough for you. Outward measures like burn rates can help, but the real answer is internal. It's about constantly recalibrating what you truly need. There's no checklist or easy answer. That's the challenge and the beauty of being human. So I thought this was a good one, Cory, just to talk about. It's easy for us to tell you if you're spending too much money and you're going to run out of it. It's another story to say, are you spending too much on things that you don't value? And I think that's what really Carl's getting at here a little bit, is that I encourage our clients to have that exercise. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 20 or 90 or anywhere in between or whatever. you want to make sure that your spending is aligned with your values. I've talked about this a lot. And if it's not, then you need to cut it or be frugal, right? Like, I don't eat a lot of desserts, Cory. So you know what? And Rachel doesn't either. So there's not a lot of desserts in our house. It would be silly if we were buying Little Debbie's every week and not eating them, or cookies just to have in a cookie jar because we don't eat them, right? That's an easy example because we're already not eating a lot of sweets. But my point is, let's just be mindful of how we spend. Another thing is to have healthy habits with shopping. Don't go shop when you're upset or depressed or emotional, right? Have a healthy relationship with your money. Understand that I am spending money on whatever. Maybe you have 2 cars because you're a car person. That's okay. I don't have 2 cars. I have 1 car because I'm a golf person. I spend money on golf, right? Rachel spends money on books. Lucky me. Books are cheap.
That's right. Cheaper than golf or cars.
So that's what I think he's getting at, but it's okay. It changes. You want to check in on it. You have any thoughts on that, Cory?
One thing that really jumped out at me from this, Jake, was the line where he said, "What's enough for me won't be enough for you." We talk about this on the show. We talk about this with clients, but it is important to understand, what enough is and what that really looks like for you. Because, Jake, for you and I, it's different, right? For other people, it's different. It is going to be individualistic for each person, for each family, for each dynamic. So I think understanding what that needs to be, it's really, how much is enough, and also what really is important to me that I'm spending money on. Because if I'm spending a bunch of money on things that aren't valuable, or Jake, if I'm just spending a bunch of money on a million different subscriptions that I pay monthly that I just don't give any thought to whether or not I should be making those payments, right? It's just the wheels are spinning. So I think that it starts with that awareness, really, of what's important to you, how much is enough, and where do there's always going to be somebody with more. There's always going to be stuff to do that people want to do that, they can or can't afford. The point is, what's really important to you.
Right. Good one. That's a great place to wrap up today's episode, Cory. So thank you, as always, for joining me on the show. And thank you all for tuning in. We hope you have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.